everybody, I'm Sarah with athriftymom.com, and today I'm going to show you one of my favorite recipes. It's actually been on my blog for over 8 years, but I just reposted it today so you guys could see it. So we're going to do things a little, don't poke it yet please, we're going to do things a little backwards. This is actually a batch that is ready to go ahead and go into rolls, and then once we get them shaped into rolls, then I'm gonna go ahead and make another batch so you guys can see how I made it. But yesterday when we made banana bread muffins, I didn't have any of the finished product to show you. And so I wanted to go ahead and we're gonna do it in reverse a little bit. But this is the dough that I've actually made, had the foil over. Hi Faith, hi Wendy. And it's now ready to be shaped into...
Can I punch it down?
Just wait a second. So my kids call this the mommy tummy phase because it's all kind of jiggly. Oh, look, there it fell. So Becky says hi. Elaine says I'm loving your videos. Crystal says hi, and Kathy says hello.
It made like a toot noise when it fell.
So this is the dough after it's been covered, and it's actually been sitting out in my sunroom for about 2 hours, which is a little longer than normal, but I was busy getting other stuff done. So right now I'm just adding a dusting of flour to it, and then I'm going to take my hand and kind of coat it in that flour a little bit, and I'm just going to go around the edge of the bowl, and I'm going to scrape down the edge. And this is a no knead dough. Kathy says hello, Debbie says hi, Simi says hello, and Antoinette says Tupperware. Yep, that's one of my big bowls I got a couple months ago, and we had that really good sale. Natalie says, oh, so excited for the recipe. So my wrists hurt me really bad. I have carpal tunnel, so it's hard for me to knead normal bread dough. So the fact that I can do this and it's a no knead recipe, that's my favorite. Okay, so we put about 1/4 of a cup of flour in, and I'm adding about another 1/4 of a cup, and I'm just kind of working that into the dough to get the stickiness
I thought this was the mommy tummy
out of it. Yeah, my kids call that the mommy tummy. Aren't they nice? Melinda says, if you need more, text me. All right. Autumn says, oh, yum. Okay, so now that we have our dough and it's not sticking to my hands, we're gonna go ahead and transfer it to the counter. Tina says, looks fluffy, can't wait to try. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm gonna take another little bit of flour and we're going to just dust our counter with it. And at this time, I find it's a little bit easier to just go ahead at this time and to cut the dough in half with my hand, and we're only gonna work with half of it at a time, okay? So it's still a little sticky, so I'm gonna flip it like this. Elaine says, oh, you've got such a good mommy. Love how patient she is with the kids. Oh, thank you. Okay, so now we're kind of stretching it out as if we were making pizza, but we're not making pizza, okay? And this is just so we can shape our dough. Now, if you wanted to do round dough, you could take it like this, and you just squeeze it up through your fingers, and there would be like a round dinner roll. Do you see that? But we're actually going to make like crescent roll style. So at this time, I'm going to use a pizza cutter.
We just had pizza for lunch. And
I'm going to cut it in fours first. Now, if I was making big rolls, I would just go ahead and roll these up at this point. But I'm actually making these rolls for a family reunion. And there's going to be a lot of little kids. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut these into a little bit smaller rolls.
Can I help you roll them?
Yep. Okay, so now at this point, we're going to spray a cookie sheet with just a little bit of oil, and this will help them not stick. And my oven is preheating at 400 degrees. JM says, can you use this dough for pizza? No, it doesn't have enough gluten built up in it for pizza. These are going to be like super soft, yummy, scrumptious, melt in your mouth dinner rolls. They're going to be really fluffy, Yeah, it wouldn't be good for pizza. Okay, so now we're just we take the fat end, or the wide end, and then we roll it up, and so we're just reversing the triangles. Elaine says that sounds fun. Yep. And
Whoa!
my girls always help me with these rolls.
I like to make these rolls.
And it's good for them to learn how to make rolls from scratch at a young age, and this is definitely a project that they can do with me. And like I said, the recipe is at the top of this page, but I can also leave it again for you.
This one's like ginormous, look at it.
Yep, and they're not all the exact same size, and that's fine, because they normally cook pretty evenly. Okay. So we're going to round that up, and we're going to take the other half of our dough,
The dough's so soft.
also known as Mommy's Belly, as the kids call it. Aren't they so nice? That's what happens when you have 5 kids. Your belly, the skin is never the same again. Lisa says, how many do you get out of a full amount of dough? If you're going to do giant roll or just really big, hearty rolls, you're going to get, well, let's see. So it would be 1, 2, 3, okay. So that would be 2, 4, 6, 8. 8. You could get 16 like giant size rolls or 32 kind of standard more dinner size rolls. It's all a matter of how big you want them. I almost always cut them in the smaller sections, and that makes 32. Elaine says, oh my goodness, I'm gonna roll these and roll some cheese in those and bake them and pack them for camp. You're a lifesaver. You're welcome.
Whoa, it's super soft and stretchy.
It is super soft and stretchy. Okay, so that's what our pan looks like. And we're gonna go ahead and start our second pan. And then I'll bake these, and then I'm gonna make another batch. So as I'm making the other batch, they only bake for 10 to 12 minutes, so then they'll be able to pop out, and I'll be able to show you guys what they look like, totally done.
These ones are a little bit thicker, I think.
Yeah, these ones are thicker.
Rolled them, or didn't roll them out as much.
I didn't. And like I said, they're never all the exact same size, just because I'm not into making everything the exact same size. So it always works. You can't really mess them up. Okay. Elaine says, tell them that the belly shows how much you love them. Right? Although I do remember when I was little seeing my mom's tummy and thinking it was pretty gross. But mine's not bad. It just kind of looks like
Flabby.
deflated bread dough. Little do they know their tummy will look like that someday too. So as much as they like to tease me about my tummy, someday theirs will too look like deflated bread dough. Okay, so we have our 2 rows. We're waiting for that last one. Wendy says, how long would you cook them if they were dinner rolls in a muffin tins? Probably about the same. I would check them about 10 minutes and check for those. Are they easy to freeze after you bake them? I would assume so. I've never froze them, but I'm sure it's pretty much like any bread. You just want to make sure you get a good seal around them so they don't collect frost. These look really good. Okay, so let's pop these in the oven. So we're going to pop them in the oven at 400 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, can you open that oven door for me, sweetheart?
Yep.
Okay. And I do always set the timer for only half of that. So I'm going to start it for 6. And that's because I'm then going to switch, the
Super shaky.
yeah, I'm going to switch the pans. That way they bake evenly. Otherwise, the ones on the bottom are going to be a little crispy on the bottom and kind of pale on the top. It looks really good. Wendy Jeff says, where can I get the recipe? It's at the top of this post, but let me share it again. I think my husband's listening in the other room and he can share it. Right, Matt? Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape up all of this. I actually have a over, or I did, but the kids always move it. So instead, I end up just using my pizza cutter to clean this up. Alright, yeah.
It's actually supposed to be a bread cutter.
I know, it's a bread cutter, but I use it as a what's it called? Counter scraper. Okay, so to start the recipe, Cheryl says this looks like good and sprinkles a little garlic salt over them. Yes, absolutely. And if you want them a little more savory, you can leave the sugar out of these, or just put a couple tablespoons in instead of the half a cup it calls for.
Oh, we made
because these are like, they have a tiny bit of sweet, I mean, they're like a sweet roll, but not like a sugary roll, like a dessert. They just have, they're delicious. You'll love them.
We made them into
Is there
dessert?
a printable recipe? Looks yummy. I did this post like 8 years ago before we had any printable options. So, but the recipe is there and you can print it off. Tina says, how long do you cut down the dough? Great idea. Easier and faster. Is that what I do? Did I miss the beginning? We're actually going to start. So Keely, I need 2 cups of hot water. So the recipe, so what I did is I actually made a batch of dough this morning, and then I let it rise, and now I'm going to actually show you how to make it. I'm going to make a second batch. So we're kind of doing the whole process backwards, but that way you guys can see how it works. So, and you can find the recipe via the link I posted. So we're going to start out with active dry yeast, and I buy it in bulk. I buy it in the big bag, and then I just keep it in a container in the fridge because I use so much of it. It's just a lot cheaper to do it that way versus buying in little packets. So we're going to need 2 tablespoons of yeast.
Where's the 1 cup measurement cup?
No, sweetheart. Here, do the one I have is for flour, and I don't. Here, get one here. So then you're going to want 2 cups of not hot water because you don't want to kill your yeast, but you do want it hot. So I normally do it kind of like as hot as my sink will get, which my sink takes a little bit to get hot, so that's why it's taking probably longer than what you guys are used to. But in here is the yeast. What kind of yeast? This is active dry yeast, and this particular brand is Red Star Active Dry Yeast. And like you can get like this whole, it's like comes vacuum packed and it's sealed, and it normally, and when I pop it open, I then just put it in one of these, and you can just dump it out, but I actually save it in here so that way when I do videos I can show you what I'm using, because otherwise everybody's confused. So I just keep the package in there with it. But just 2 tablespoons of yeast, and then we have, yep, that's good. So then we have 2 cups of hot/warm water. You don't want it boiling or anything. And if you haven't used yeast or you've had it sitting in your fridge for a while, you want to make sure that it's still active. And how you can tell that is you can instantly kind of smell it, but then the yeast, you can see it like starts to kind of foam or get bubbly, and then it actually starts to move on its own. So
It's kind of creepy.
It's kind of creepy. Okay, so we're just kind of let it sit and do its thing just for a couple minutes, or well, just for a few seconds. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my ½ cup of sugar. The sugar also helps the yeast do its thing. Yep, that's what the yeast eats. You don't want to add your salt in right at the very beginning because the salt can kill the yeast. So we're just going to blend that up, kind of let the sugar dissolve in the warm water. Okay. Luana says thank you. Okay. Can you actually put this in the microwave for like 20 seconds?
Okay.
Okay. So then we're going to crack 3 eggs into our bread.
3 eggs into our bread, which makes a song.
And I always crack the eggs in a separate container. That way I make sure I don't have any bad ones or I don't have any shells. And then you pre-whip them a little bit. Oh, can you get that for me?
When we were on vacation, we got 3 double yolks.
Terry says yeast bloom. Yeah, that's probably the proper word for it, is yeast bloom. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add my whipped eggs in to my mixture. We're going to whisk that in. Keely, can you get that butter out for me?
Yeah.
Oh, did it beep? Okay, guys.
Oven beat it.
I got to flip my rolls real quick. I'll be right back. I got to change position so they don't get too hot on one end and not on the other.
You dropped the whisk in the mix.
That's all right.
I got some hot butter. Butter and stuff. It's actually margarine. Dad got it. Yeah. You were like, yeah. Some kind of like
Okay,
fancy
so I am using margarine on this recipe. I normally use butter, but my husband came home with a bunch of margarine the other day, and so I use it for baking because I can't stand the taste of it. It works just fine. Butter works a little bit better, but this is fine. What good helpers. I love your apron. Did you make it? You know, my mom made me this apron and gave it to me for Christmas a couple years ago, and she sewed like all of my stuff growing up and all my dresses and everything, and these are actually scraps from some of my dresses she made me when I was little, which is kind of fun back in the 80s when floral print was in style, and it's funny to see that floral print's coming back. Okay, so we have our 2 cups of water, our 2 tablespoons of yeast, our half a cup of sugar, our 3 eggs, our 3/4 of a cup of melted butter. Now here's a secret ingredient that I add, and it's actually not on the thing. I've started doing this the last couple of years, is I add half a cup of applesauce. And this just happens to make everything super, super, super moist. Like I said, I don't have that on the original recipe, but that's how I've started making it. And I started making it that way one time I didn't have enough butter, and you can substitute butter for oil. And I did that, and I loved it so much that now I just always add it in. Okay, and so now we need 1 teaspoon.
You said oil instead of applesauce.
What?
You said oil, not applesauce.
I know. Oh, sorry. Yes, so this is half a cup of applesauce. So then we need 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay? So now we have all our liquid. Andy says, I love your Tupperware. Yes, I love Tupperware. Cheryl says, so cute. Okay, so now we're going to start whisking in our flour. Ugh. And we're going to do about 6 cups of flour.
Could I try whisking?
Sure. Come over here and start whisking. Roberta says, I love your apron. So cute. Thanks. My mommy made it for me. All right. So you want to, when it first starts, you want to make sure that you get all that flour whisked in. Girls, help me keep track, okay, since I'm talking and reading. So that was 1 cup, and we're going to put a total of 6 cups in. 1, so then this is 2. And we're kind of actually going more for dough consistency than measurements too. Sifted flour. No, I've never sifted flour in my life, and I've been baking since I was about 10. You definitely could sift it, but I never do. Cindy says, thanks for sharing. I think I can do this. We'll see. Okay, so there's 3. Keep on mixing. If you go to my original post, you can actually see my little helpers, but it was when they were like 6 years younger. So they're just babies. Now they're like big girls, and they've been making this recipe with me for years. So they could
make breadsticks with it.
Yeah, so they could probably make this recipe themselves if I let them. Okay, so that was 4, I think, right?
Well, remember that one time when I was making cream puffs, but I didn't wait for the flour and the sugar and the butter to dry, or to cool down, so you know you have to
Must
make it
be
on the
making,
oven.
yeah.
And I added the eggs, so it turned into scrambled egg dough.
Yeah. Yeah, that was gross. She says, must be making bread or dinner rolls. Yep, we're making dinner rolls. And like I said, this is a no-knead recipe, which which makes it super great. I have a KitchenAid now, and so if I actually do make bread, I normally make it in my KitchenAid. Just because I have carpal tunnel in my wrist and it really hurts. Okay, so we're down to where we need like one more. Sorry, Debbie says, is that bread flour by chance? Yes. And if I have bread flour, I use bread flour. If not, I just use all-purpose flour. Terry says yes, 4. Candace says, let's make them gluten-free. I don't know how to make them gluten-free. And then Wendy says, there is 5 cups. Usually love clover rolls from Libby's. Yes, they're kind of like that. Do you let it rise? Yes. So let me get a different mixer. At this point, I'm going to switch over to a spatula. And this bread dough is going to be sticky. And since I added that extra bit of applesauce, sometimes it takes 6 or 7 cups. It kind of just depends. So it's definitely still too sticky, so we're going to add another cup of flour. Are you going to let it rise? Yes, I'll put it some saran wrap in over it, and then I'll put it out in my sunroom, or you can put it like in your car, unless it's like super, super hot. You don't want it to actually bake, but you want to put it in like a warm, sunny spot.
I think our car would bake it.
Yeah. I love that you have your children help make collages. I'm not sure what that is. Collages with my family. Candace says, my mouth is watering. Kathy says, I just caught the end of this. You said about the KitchenAid. Do you use that normally? No, that's only if I'm making actually like normal dough. This recipe, it can all just be made in the bowl, and it doesn't. Hang on, guys. I gotta grab those out so they don't burn.
I don't know what the top one is. Mom! Hi!
Okay, so I'm gonna let this go just for a minute. Keely, can you watch that and just let them go one more minute and we'll pull them out?
Yes, I could.
Okay. So this bread dough is still just a tiny bit too sticky. So we're gonna add just a tiny bit more. And then I'm going to mix it in. Okay. So that's kind of the consistency we're looking for. It pulls cleanly away from the edge of the bread. Please don't do that, Matthew. That's dirty flour. And this is what it's going to look like. Okay? So Kathy, to answer your question, no, this one we make all just with the whisk and a spatula. Renee says, I'm in Baltimore and it's 90 degrees outside. No way. Yeah, so you would just want to put this next to a warm window. Or, like I said, I just put it in my sunroom. Monica says, ah, boys. Cheryl says, he's a cutie. Faye says, hi, I think I was Maverick, right? No, that was Matthew. Cassandra says, oh my goodness, so much flour. Yeah, so this makes 32 rolls. So yeah, you're gonna have a lot of flour in there. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and get some saran wrap. And you can hold that for me. And we're going to cover the bowl with it. We're going to need another little section of it. And then we're going to put it out in the sunroom. Okay, and I got to get those rolls out of the oven before they burn. So I'll be right back with those rolls.
Are we taking those two?
And these rolls aren't like a really dark roll. They're a little bit pale, and that's okay. You don't want to overcook them or they're going to dry out. Keely, go ahead and turn the oven off for me. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to butter the tops of them. And we're going to actually use real butter. Like I said, I don't like margarine. Where's my silicone brush? There it is. Okay, Faith says, hi, I think that, because or on the top of the fridge. Yeah, you can put it on the top of the fridge too. Haha, my bad, Faith says. Okay, so now I'm gonna use my butter brush, my silicone brush And I'm just gonna brush the tops with
some
butter. And this gives them a nice shine, but it also gives them just a little bit of that like salty, yummy butter flavor.
Ooh, we could put garlic more on it.
You could totally at this point, if you wanted, sprinkle some garlic and parsley on them to make like garlic rolls.
Isn't that what we do for bread?
Renee says, how do you make them into that shape? If you watch back the first of the video, I showed making these, but basically you cut them, you roll it out into, you press it out into a circle, and then you use a pizza cutter to cut them into like what would look like pieces of pizza, and then you roll the triangle backwards, and it makes them this color. Keely, can you butter those rolls on that side for me?
I can, Mom.
So then this is what they look like. They are delicious. If you could have smell-o-vision, you'd be at my house right now. So, and then you just want to let them go ahead and sit on this sheet and just kind of cool. And then you can also flip them on their sides so the bottoms don't get sweaty. And that's what the bottoms of them look like. But sometimes I'll go along and flip them on their sides so the bottoms don't get sweaty on the hot pan. But that is the dinner rolls. And like I said, they're the easiest, yummiest rolls you'll ever make. They're pretty much fail-proof. And they're super good. They don't last very long at our house. So that is them. How many of you guys think that you can make them? Crystal says yummy. Cheryl says, I bet your house always smells yummy. We try. Thank you for the answer. Renee says, hopefully I answered your question. I read through so many of these, I forget what I answer and what I don't answer. Cheryl says, I bet you, Katie says, my apple butter would be great with these. Yes, and honey butter is also good. And we also like to put butter and jam on them. Katie says, no. Lorraine says, thank you, they look yummy. Jennifer says, looks delicious. Elaine says, I sometimes mix some honey and melted butter in a brush and top them with the back for back of a couple minutes. Your rolls look delicious. Yes, we've done that before too. Wendy says, I am going to try. Good. Luann says, yummy, thank you. I would make them. Leah says, time for a trip to the store to get some yeast. Yeah, I hope you do. And Monica says, I have 5 little helpers. My girls were about your girls' age, and we have these too soon. We'll have to do these soon. Yes, it's a great recipe to teach your kids how to cook and how to do the rolls. And like I said, if you don't have, if you don't want to do the triangle shapes, I find that's the easiest way for my girls. Then you can actually do, you can just do dinner rolls, and those you just push through the middle of your, you just push the dough up through your hand and then squeeze it off, and it makes like a nice round shape. Cassandra says, how long did the dough rise for? You want to let it rise. I've done it as little as 30 minutes before if I'm in a big rush. But normally I let it rise till it's doubled in size, and it's about 30 minutes. No, sorry. It's normally about an hour. But like these rolls actually rose for 2.5 hours just because I didn't get to them in time. You look better. They look better than gold. Yes, and they're delicious. They taste better too. Cassandra says, how long did the dough rise? I just answered that. It can rise for as little as 15 to 30 minutes, but really about an hour, hour and a half is best. But these ones went over 2.5 hours. Brittany says, not right now, sweetheart. Brittany says, cannot wait to make these with my children. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, well, if you need that recipe, I have it listed at the top, and we've posted it a few times throughout the thing. I think you'll really like this recipe. My family all loves them, and I will let this this dough go sit, and it's going to rise up and double up. Yep, that's hot, honey. Did you just burn your chin? All right, we got to get some ice. My kid just put his chin on the pot, on the thing. All right, let's get some ice.
Brittany says, thank
frozen peas on your face.
She says thank you.
Yep, Brittany says thank you. Candace says thank you. When your kid burns their chin on the hot pan, slap some frozen peas on there. Is that funny? All right. Okay, hold it. Someone doesn't have to hold it. I'm going to go wash my hands.
Not.
She says not, and then she says ouch. The little guy looks like you. Yep, he's my kid. Should I put some frozen peas on my face too?
I will, really?
She says, what else are you having for with the dinner rolls? I'm making these. We're going to a family reunion tonight, and we're supposed to bring a side. We're supposed to bring our own meat, and then a side and a dessert. And so today I just decided that making dinner rolls would be a good idea because
it's easy.
It's our Ashby family reunion, and my grandma Ashby used to always make the best rolls on earth. She died, I don't know, a long time ago, like 15 years ago, I think. But that's like when I think of her, I always think of her rolls.
It was great.
And
Grandma
so,
Callahan.
yep. No, that was Grandma Ashby.
No, it was Grandma
And
Rosa.
so I just thought I would make rolls because it makes me think of her. And there'll be a lot of people there, and so I'm sure they will all get eaten. That's why I'm actually making 2 batches, so it'll be 60 rolls to take, and I'm sure they'll all be gone. Brittany says, poor baby, LOL. Jennifer says, no. Terry says, is there a printer-friendly copy for the recipe? You know what? Let me get off here. I can now, since we have an updated plugin, I can go ahead and do that. It'll probably take me about 30 minutes, but if you go back in 30 minutes, I can put it in a printer version for you. Luann says, beautiful family, lots of love and happiness. All right, so I'll hop off and I'll go ahead and update that post and put it in a printer friendly version. Like I said, I originally put that recipe up like 8 years ago, and that was before we had any printer stuff.
Mommy?
Cheryl says, you're a busy mom. Yes, and Jennifer says, awesome, sounds like a good time. How sweet, please don't poke the rolls. Jennifer says, thank you, and Cheryl says, have fun. Yep. All right, so I'm going to let you guys go, and I will get on and update that into a printer version. Give me at least an hour, because I still got to clean up my roll mess and get all that stuff done, and then I'll get to it. All right, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe as much as we do. Talk to you later. Bye.